Okay, lesson 8. How do I show ratios using ratio tables? So this lesson is going to be a little bit different because we're not going to be looking at rate tables, we're looking at ratio tables. So let's just refresh your memory on what a rate table looks like. Rate tables, if you remember, had different units. A rate is just a special kind of ratio, right? It's special because it has two different units. In our first rate table, we had hours and miles. In our second rate table, we had pounds and dollars. So we were talking about two completely different units and comparing those different units. Also, if you remember the columns, the very first column always contained that very first column of a multiplication table. You were always counting by ones, right? The second column was the one that was always a little bit different. That was the one where you were counting by the unit rate. In the first rate table, you see 6 miles per hour. So this column here, you were always counting by sixes. In the second rate table, you have $5 per pound. And that means in the second column, you were always counting by the unit rate of 5. So the second column was always the one where you were increasing by the unit rate. The first column was always counting by ones. Now, I want to refresh your memory about ratios. Remember this apple basket? Here we could compare, apples to apples. Maybe red apples to green apples, or maybe green apples to red apples. Either or, I'm still comparing quantities just like I did on the last slide, except I'm talking about the same units. So these are not rates because I'm talking about the same thing, apples and apples, or fruit and fruit if you want to look at it that way. The units are the same. You're going to see that in a ratio table. If you look at workbook page 23, you can see two different kinds of tables. Look at the top. Noreen saves $3 a day, which we know she was putting $3 a day in her duck bank, and Tim saves $5 a day. They start saving on the same day. The linked rate table and the ratio table show Noreen's and Tim's savings. So the first table is the linked rate table. You know what a rate table looks like. This is a linked rate table because it shows, first of all, this unit column here. Remember we said in a rate table we always had one column where you were counting by ones? Here we're talking about days. Day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, day 6, day 7, and of course there's going to be a day 8. Now what's different about this rate table is that you have two columns next to that unit column. Each column is different though because one column is for Noreen, the other column is for Tim. And what you can see is that the column for Noreen is increasing by 3 every single time. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, and of course $24 on the 8th day. That's because Noreen is saving at a different rate than Tim. Tim, on the other hand, is saving $5 a day. So his column is counting by fives, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, and that means on the 8th day he will have saved $40. So a linked rate table is just that. It's a rate table, but you're linking two different rates. In this case, the rate for Noreen and the amount of money she saves, and the rate for Tim. Now, a ratio table is a little bit different. A ratio table does not have that days column. It doesn't have that extra column where you're counting by ones. It only has the two columns for Noreen and Tim and their own individual rates at which they're saving money. You just kind of have to assume that the unit column is there. We just don't put it in there. But again, you can see how we're increasing by 3 every single time for Noreen, which means on the 8th day she would be at $24. And for Tim, we're increasing every single day by $5, and that means on the 8th day we have 40. So the ratio table is very similar to the linked rate table, except you do not have that extra unit column. It's only comparing Noreen and Tim and their individual rates at which they save money. But notice the units are the same. Even though they're saving at different rates, they're still saving money, right? We're talking about money for Noreen and money for Tim. The units are the same. So, how are the tables alike? How are they different? Well, both tables show the constant increase in savings for Noreen and Tim, but the ratio table does not have the unit column like the linked rate table does. So that would be the difference between them. A ratio table does not have that extra unit column. And what are the numbers that are circled at the top of each table? So they're talking about these numbers here. Do you see how the 3 and the 5 are circled at the top of each ratio table? They're showing unit rates for Noreen and Tim. That means Noreen is saving $3 per day. That means Tim is saving $5 per day. So those circle numbers are showing the unit rates. They're just different unit rates for each person. Each person is saving at their own rate. Okay, let's take a look at another example. Think about this problem. Raina is making fruit salad for a party. For every 2 bananas, she needs 3 oranges. She has a lot of guests coming. She went to the store and picked up 8 bananas. How many oranges should she get? Hopefully you recognize that we have some ratio language here. Do you see that word every? For every 2 bananas, she needs 3 oranges. So we're talking about bananas to oranges. We're comparing the number of bananas to oranges. And we have a ratio of 2 bananas to 3 oranges. Bananas and oranges, 2 to 3. And let's see. She now is picking up 8 bananas at the store. And we want to know how many oranges should she get? If she wants to make that fruit salad, she better keep that ratio of bananas to oranges the same. She doesn't want it to be, more bananas or have more of a banana flavor than an orange flavor or vice versa. She wants that ratio of bananas to oranges to be the same. So let's take a look at what this looks like in a linked rate table, in a ratio table. Let's see. Here we have a linked rate table. This one right here is our linked rate table. You can see it's a linked rate table because here we have this extra column for our units. And then we have the other 2 columns for the bananas and the oranges. And you can see at the top we have that ratio of 2 to 3. 2 bananas for 3 oranges. So if we're just making one serving of fruit salad, well then we just need 2 bananas and 3 oranges. If we're making 2 servings, well that means 4 bananas and 6 oranges. 3 servings, now I need 6 bananas and 9 oranges. And 4 servings, well that means 8 bananas, 12 oranges. Remember we asked how many oranges were needed if there were 8 bananas? That kind of answers our question. And 5 servings, we would need 10 bananas, 15 oranges. You can see that that pattern is continuous. On this side, however, we have an actual ratio table. That means we do not have this extra column, this extra ones column, showing the number of servings. You just see the column for bananas and the column for oranges. And you can see that constant increase. The bananas is increasing by 2 every single time. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. The oranges is increasing by 3 every time. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. So there's our ratio table. But again, if you are talking about buying 8 bananas, you're going to need 12 oranges. So here is the ratio table again at the top, and a drawing to help you to, make sense of it. So 1 serving is 2 bananas and 3 oranges. Well, now if we're talking about 2 servings, well now we need 4 bananas and 6 oranges because we've just added 2 more bananas, 3 more oranges. Now we add another 2 bananas and 3 oranges, and there's our 3rd serving. Now that's a total of 6 bananas and a total of 9 oranges. And here, another increase of 2 bananas and 3 oranges. Now we're up to 8 bananas and 12 oranges. Every time we increased at the same rate. When we increased the bananas by 2, we increased the oranges by 3. Then again by another 2, oranges by another 3. Bananas by another 2, oranges by another 3. That remained constant. There's that word again, constant. We have a constant ratio that never changed. Okay, takeaways. First of all, a linked rate table is 2 rate tables that are linked together with the unit column to form a ratio table. A ratio table is a table that shows equivalent ratios. Equivalent means all the ratios are the same. So for example, remember the bananas and oranges? We talked about 2 bananas to 3 oranges, and then we increased it by 2, and we increased this one by 3, and then we ended up with 4 bananas and 6 oranges. Well, that ratio bananas to oranges still stayed the same. We had 2 bananas and 3 oranges to start with, and then we added another 2 bananas and 3 oranges to get our 4 to 6. We are still talking about the same ratio every single time. Every single time it was still 2 bananas to 3 oranges, and we just kept increasing it by that same ratio, 2 to 3. Now a ratio table, remember, it shows the constant increase and relationship between 2 quantities.